Billed as potentially the most important vice president's debate in US history, it could equally have been mistaken for the start of the 2024 campaign to be commander-in-chief. Democratic candidate Senator Kamala Harris and current Vice President Mike Pence faced off at a COVID-safe distance on stage at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. Seated and separated by perspex screens, they ran the gauntlet of COVID-19, the economy, Supreme Court, climate change and race relations, with both candidates ducking hot-button questions, interrupting each other and refusing to heed time calls from the moderator. And at one point, the fly in the ointment was actually a fly that made itself at home on Mike Pence's snowy white hair. Each of the wannabe vice presidents are on a ticket with a senior candidate, Donald Trump and Joe Biden, aged 74 and 77 respectively, meaning their understudies could become the main actor. Kamala Harris slammed the Trump administration's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has killed 209,000 Americans. But Vice President Pence bit back and slammed the Biden team's plan as little more than plagiarism.
The reality is, when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President Trump and I and our task force have been doing every step of the way. I mean, quite frankly, when I look at their plan that talks about advancing testing, creating new PPE, developing a vaccine, it looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. And I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the health of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart, can be proud of the sacrifices they have made. It's saved countless American lives.
Mike Pence danced around a question about whether Trump's actions before and after getting COVID could be damaging to the way Americans respond.
In a Rose Garden event 11 days ago, what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials. No social distancing, few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those who were there. How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID when you at the White House have not been doing so?
Well, the American people have demonstrated over the last 8 months that when given the facts, they're willing to put the health of their families and their neighbors and people they don't even know first. And President Trump and I have great confidence in the American people and their ability to take that information and put it into practice.
Sidestepping questions was a theme of the night, with 74-year-old President Trump currently contagious with COVID-19 and former Vice President Biden set to turn 78 just weeks after the election. Both potential VPs were asked what happens if their president becomes unfit to serve. Both dodged it, with Pence instead doubling back to Kamala Harris's previous answer about a COVID vaccine.
One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes without interruption.
Well, Susan, thank you, although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on to the issue of
thank you, but I would like to go back because the reality is that we're going to have a vaccine.
The earlier presidential debate was filled with interruptions and insults. Pence and Harris handled things slightly differently.
This is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000 a year.
He said he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Right. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is absolutely not true.
Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish. We can then
Please.
have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay.
And while Chris Wallace had struggled to control Trump and Biden during the presidential debate, today's moderator, Susan Page, put her foot down.
Thank you,
also
Vice President
say
Pence.
the
Vice
The American
President
people
Pence,
deserve, Susan,
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
people
I
deserve to
didn't,
know.
Vice President
that-
Pence, I did not, excuse me,
Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Your
and
campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's
I-
debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you,
Go right
which is what I'm trying very hard to do.